By the time the alarm went off, Ryan had already been awake for half an hour. To be honest, he hadn't really slept for years, 1,460 days. Like a good dog, he got up at 6 o'clock every morning, made breakfast for Victoria, kept her coffee at 65 degrees. She liked it at that temperature. Too hot tasted bitter, too cool tasted sour. Then he stood at the door handing her his briefcase and said, "Wife, take care." Guess what he was thinking? He was thinking, to hell with your 65 degrees. Today was different. Today was the last day. The contract spelled it out clearly. 4 years completed, parting ways amicably, he walks away with 10 million. 10 million. Ryan rolled the number over and over in his mind, chewing on it so many times he lost count. And it only got sweeter the more he savored it. He swung his legs out of bed, moving quietly. Victoria was still asleep, lying on her side, the covers pulled up to her chin. She was peaceful when she slept, nothing like when she was awake. Every sentence then sounded like she was signing layoff notices. Ryan glanced at her, just a glance. Then he tiptoed out of the bedroom, pulled out his phone at the end of the hallway, and sent his buddy Alex a message. "Celebration tonight. The fanciest place. The bill's on me." Alex replied instantly. "You're finally free." Ryan's fingers trembled as he typed. "The agreement expires today. 10 million in hand. Starting tomorrow, I'll get up whenever the hell I want and drink coffee at whatever strength I please." Alex sent a string of emojis, confetti, and popping champagne. Ryan tucked his phone back into his pocket, unable to suppress the curl of a smile. He walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and took out an egg. Then his hand froze. Today is the last day. So, do I make this breakfast or not? Make it. Does the last day stand your final watch? Besides, if Victoria is in a good mood and signs quickly, he can get the check and leave sooner. He fried 2 eggs, toasted 2 slices of bread, and tuned the coffee to 65 degrees, exactly the same as the previous 1,460 days. Victoria came downstairs at 8 o'clock, black skirt suit, her hair pinned up, the platinum earrings, only worn when she met clients. Ryan knew she had a board meeting today, the serious kind, with a few uncles vying for power. She had to be there to hold the fort. "Breakfast is on the table," Ryan said. Victoria replied with a soft hum, sat down and took a bite of her toast. Ryan stood beside her as usual. "What day is it today?" Victoria asked suddenly. Ryan's heart skipped a beat. She remembered. She actually remembered. November 15th. His voice was steady, his face grinning. "Do you have any plans, wife?" But what he was thinking was, hurry up and bring it up. "If you bring it up, I'll accept. Once we sign today, I'll move out tonight." Victoria didn't look at him. She glanced down at her coffee. "No plans." The smile on Ryan's face froze for exactly 3/10 of a second. "No plans? The agreement expires today, and you have no plans?" He took a deep breath. "It's fine. No rush. She might be busy. They'll talk when she gets back tonight. After all, the agreement is black and white, automatic when it expires. Whether she signs or not makes no difference. See you, wife." He handed over the briefcase. Victoria took the bag and walked to the door, pausing for a moment. She turned her head and glanced at him. The look couldn't be defined, just a glance. Then she left. Ryan stood in the entryway, staring at the door, and lingered for a full 10 seconds. Then he smiled. Not a polite smile, but the kind that had been held in for 4 years and was finally about to be released. He even wanted to jump up and down on the spot. But considering Victoria's aunt lived downstairs, he let it go. He took out his phone and sent Alex another message. "She's gone. Expect good news from me tonight." The day dragged by especially slowly. Ryan was packing up at home, though really there wasn't much to pack. Over the past 4 years, his space in this house had been shrinking. His clothes took up only a third of the wardrobe. His books on the shelf numbered just 2. One titled Business Analysis, the other How to Run a Marriage. He'd never even opened the latter. He packed his things into a single suitcase. 4 years and it all fit in one suitcase. It sounded a little pitiful when he thought about it. But Ryan didn't feel pitiful. He felt light. So light he could almost fly. 10 million. He began to scheme. First, buy an apartment downtown not too big. A 2-bedroom with a living room would be enough for him alone. Then buy a car. He'd had his eye on a Porsche for a long time. The rest would go into investments. Alex was running a project with a pretty good return. He was happily doing the math when his phone rang. A message from Victoria's assistant. "Mr. Ryan. Victoria would like to have dinner at home tonight. Please prepare accordingly." Ryan stared at the message. Dinner at home the day the agreement expired. She wanted to eat at home. Fine. He'd eat the last meal. Treat it like a farewell dinner. He'd cook something nice. She'd enjoy it and sign the papers without hesitation. He changed clothes and went out to buy groceries. Lobster, steak, red wine, everything Victoria liked. He pushed a shopping cart through the supermarket, humming to himself, catching a couple of extra glances from the aunties nearby. At the checkout, he suddenly remembered he was still spending Victoria's money. Last day, so no point being stingy about it. At 7 that evening, Victoria came home. Ryan brought the dishes to the table one by one. The lobster was garlic buttered, the steak cooked to medium well, the wine had been decanted. He'd even bothered to light 2 candles. Victoria changed into casual clothes and went downstairs. When she saw the candles on the table, her steps faltered. What day is it today? Ryan smiled softly, gentle as ever. I wanted to make a nice meal for my wife. What he was thinking. It's a farewell dinner after all. Got to have a bit of ceremony. Eat, you sign, I take the money, and everyone parts on good terms. Victoria sat down and picked up her knife and fork. As she cut into the steak, Ryan sat across from her, eating as well. He ate with relish. Honestly, he'd been making this lobster for 4 years. And today, he could finally enjoy a proper bite himself. When Victoria used to eat at home, he always had to watch whether her glass was empty or her food had gone cold. He could never eat in peace. The lobster's good, Victoria said. Thank you, wife. You finally complimented me for years. Do you know how many times you've praised me? 3. Once when the coffee was the perfect temperature. Once when your high heel broke and I had a spare flat in my bag. And once. Never mind. I don't want to remember. Besides, you won't need me to wait on you anymore. Ryan was thinking this when Victoria's fork stopped. She looked up and stared at Ryan. The look in her eyes was strange. It wasn't the usual, you're a competent utility look. It was. Ryan couldn't put it into words, as if she'd heard something she shouldn't have. What's wrong? Ryan asked. Nothing. Victoria kept her head down and continued eating. But her movements changed. She cut the steak harder, the fork stabbing into the meat as if prodding someone's face. Ryan didn't pay it any mind. He kept eating his lobster and kept calculating in his head. Bring it up after the meal. Be direct. Just say, Victoria, the contract has expired. Let's handle the paperwork. Crisp and to the point. No beating around the bush. Then take the check and leave. Wake up tomorrow. Sunlight pouring into his apartment. No 65 degrees coffee. No take care, wife. No, Ryan. Victoria put down her fork and knife, wiped her mouth. She stood up and walked toward the study. Ryan followed. In a drawer of the study, she pulled out a manila folder. Ryan recognized it at a glance. The agreement, the one from 4 years ago, their signatures and fingerprints on it, even notarized. Victoria set the folder on the desk. Ryan's heart quickened. It had come. Finally, he took a deep breath, the lines he'd rehearsed ready on his lips. Victoria, thank you for these 4 years together. Let's part amicably. Victoria pulled the agreement out of the folder. Then she tore it. Ryan's mind went blank for a full 3 seconds. He watched Victoria's hand. Slender, wearing a platinum ring. Tear the agreement down the middle into 2 halves. Fold them and tear them again. The motion was brisk as when she made redundancies. What are you doing? Ryan's voice shifted a little. Victoria tossed the torn papers into the bin and turned to look at him. I'm not divorcing you. Ryan thought he must have misheard. What? I said I'm not divorcing you. Victoria crossed her arms over her chest, chin tilted slightly up. That was her standard negotiating pose, one Ryan had seen for 4 years and knew all too well. The contract's expired. Ryan forced his voice to sound steadier. It's in black and white. 10 million. I tore up the contract. Tearing it up doesn't change the fact that it expired. Then sue me. Ryan opened his mouth but didn't speak. He looked at Victoria. She stood there, the sleeves of her loungewear a bit long, covering half a hand, making her look a size smaller than when she wore a suit. But her gaze was not diminished at all. That look seemed to say, I've made my decision. You just accept it. Ryan's mind started racing. What's going on? Didn't she claim not to care? For years of marriage, she treated him about the same as the sofa set at home. Useful while it lasts, replace it if it isn't. Why suddenly not divorcing? Does she think 10 million is too much? Or is she afraid he'll split the assets? No, that can't be. The agreement is crystal clear. The breakup fee was agreed upon before marriage. It was then he noticed something. Victoria's eyes were a little red. It was faint. If you didn't look closely, you wouldn't notice it at all. But over the past 4 years, Ryan had developed a skill. He could judge Victoria's mood in 0.3 of a second. It was a survival instinct. You never knew when she might suddenly turn unhappy, and then the whole house's atmosphere would drop to zero. Her eyes were red. Why? Ryan couldn't make sense of it. His mind was full of my breakup fee, my Porsche, my freedom. And this red-rimmed gaze suddenly knocked him off rhythm. Victoria, he began. His voice a touch softer than before. What's wrong with you? Victoria turned her face away. Nothing. I just don't want to leave. Don't want to divorce you. Ryan almost said you never cared about me. But swallowed it. He knew Victoria too well. She wouldn't explain. Once she made a decision, it was a decision. You just had to accept it. But this time, Ryan truly couldn't accept it. He stood in the study, looking at the shredded paper in the trash. A single thought running through his mind. My 10 million gone. The Porsche gone. Freedom gone. And his wife, the woman who hadn't spoken more than 1,000 sentences in 4 years, stood before him, arms folded, chin lifted, eyes rimmed with red, saying, I'm not getting a divorce. Ryan took a deep breath. Victoria, you have to give me a reason. Victoria turned her head and looked at him. That look had returned, the same look she'd given him at dinner, like she'd heard something she wasn't supposed to hear. A reason, she said softly. You know it in your own heart. Ryan was taken aback. No, in my heart. Do I even know what I think? What I'm thinking is the breakup fee, the Porsche freedom. The corner of Victoria's mouth twitched as if she was holding something back. Get out, she said. What? Get out. I want to be alone. Ryan stood where he was, hesitated for 2 seconds, then turned and left the study. He went to the living room, sat on the sofa, and stared up at the ceiling. The suitcase was still in the bedroom, holding all his belongings. The lobster and steak were still on the table, the candles still burning. The wine had been decanted, untouched. He took out his phone and sent a message to Alex. Change of plans. Alex replied in a second. What happened? Ryan stared at the screen, typed a line and deleted it. Typed another and deleted it. Finally, he sent, she won't leave. There was a full minute of silence on the other end. Then, Alex sent one line, bro, you're done. Ryan slapped his phone onto the couch and tilted his head back to stare at the ceiling. The candle light played across it, flickering. What he didn't know was that in the bedroom upstairs, Victoria was sitting on the edge of the bed with her hands over her face. She had heard everything from the moment he woke up that morning. Screw your 65 degrees coffee to breakfast. Hurry up and bring up divorce. It's a farewell party. Up until just now in the study. My breakup fee, my Porsche, my freedom. She heard every single sentence as if someone had installed a loudspeaker in his head, broadcasting all his most secret thoughts. Victoria's fingers tightened, digging into her palm. She wanted to cry, but she would not cry. She was the CEO of the Victoria Group. She could shut several uncles speechless at the boardroom. When she heard him think, my 10 million is gone. She almost laughed out loud. But then she heard another thought, very soft, as if it were a notion he hadn't even noticed himself. Her eyes are red. Why? Just that one sentence. Victoria's hand lowered. She stared at the bedroom ceiling, the corner of her mouth lifting a fraction. Not a smile, more like an expression of someone who has just discovered something and doesn't know whether to be glad or afraid. From downstairs came the sound of Ryan turning over. Victoria closed her eyes. She decided she wouldn't leave. Absolutely not. This jerk whose head is full of Porsches and wine-soaked nights. She simply refuses to let go. Ryan sat in the cafe for 3 hours. Alex sat across from him. His coffee was on its 4th refill. His laptop opened to a forum post titled, How to Make Your Wife Ask for a Divorce. 10 Practical Tips. Are you sure this is reliable? Ryan stared at the screen. Reliable, Alex said. I've read the comments. An 80% success rate. Ryan didn't speak. He looked at those 10 tips. 1. Don't do housework. 2. Come home late without reporting. 3. Deliberately pick fights. 4. Act like a loser. 5. Mention other women in front of her. The 5th one won't do, Ryan said. Victoria doesn't get jealous. Alex looked up at him. How do you know? It's been 4 years, Ryan said. She doesn't even always remember my birthday. Do you think she'd get jealous? Alex thought for a moment and nodded. Makes sense. Then skip number 5. Pick one from the remaining 9. Ryan stared at the screen. Skip doing chores? He hardly had any chores to begin with. Coming home late without notice? He was home every night. There'd be no excuse for being late. Act like a useless bum? He was useless enough as it was. If he got any worse, Victoria might just hire a caregiver for him. His gaze lingered on the third item. Deliberately pick a fight. He could try that. Let's do this, Ryan said, pointing at the screen. Pick a fight. Alex nodded. How exactly do we do it? What kind of thing do you want to pick on? Ryan thought for a moment. For the past 4 years, his days had been making breakfast, handing over a briefcase, waiting for Victoria to come home, occasionally accompanying her to social events. What could he possibly pick on? Coffee not at the right temperature? Impossible. He had never slipped up. Breakfast not tasty? Victoria never commented. She either ate it or she didn't. The house not clean? He was obsessive. Cleaner than the cleaning lady herself. Do you usually argue with her? Alex asked. No, not even once. Ryan shook his head. For years, he said, the things we've said to each other probably don't add up to 1,000 sentences. Arguments require conversation, and we never had one. Alex stared at him. Man, what kind of life are you living? Ryan didn't answer. He watched the street outside the window. The sun was bright, pedestrians coming and going, everyone looking busy, fulfilled like they had somewhere to be. And he sat here figuring out how to argue with his wife. Here's the thing. Alex closed his laptop. When you go home today, pick one thing, anything to fight about. If you can't find one, make one up. Like say the outfit she's wearing looks bad or the decision she made was wrong or she doesn't let me be part of her decisions. Then say she doesn't let you be part of them. Ryan thought for a moment. She doesn't let me be part of them, he repeated. And then what? Alex stood up and patted Ryan on the shoulder. You say, Victoria, I feel like you don't respect me. Then she might explain and you keep arguing until she can't take it and voluntarily asks for a divorce. Ryan looked at Alex. You think this will work? Try it, Alex said. You've got no other options right now anyway. When Ryan got home, Victoria hadn't returned. He stood in the entryway staring at the door. Start a fight by picking a fight. He ran through the script Alex had given him in his head. Victoria, I don't feel like you respect me. And then imagine Victoria's reaction. She would probably look at him, stay silent for 3 seconds, and then say, have you finished? Then he'd lose. Ryan took a deep breath. No, this angle won't work. He needed to find a problem she couldn't solve with silence. He walked into the living room and looked around. The living room was very tidy. The sofa was beige, the rug gray, and on the coffee table lay a magazine, Business Week, that Victoria had left there after reading it last time. 2 paintings hung on the wall, both abstract. Ryan couldn't make heads or tails of them, but Victoria liked them. He went into the kitchen. The kitchen was even cleaner. A sticky note was affixed to the fridge. Saturday dinner, 7 p.m. formal attire. In Victoria's handwriting. Ryan stared at that note for 5 seconds. Saturday dinner? What dinner? How did he not know? He pulled out his phone and glanced at the calendar. It was Thursday. Saturday was the day after tomorrow. Victoria was attending a dinner and hadn't told him. A thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Wasn't this exactly the kind of provocation he needed? She didn't tell him about the dinner. She didn't let him be part of her life. What did she see him as? What? A babysitter? A decoration? A heaviness pressed on Ryan's chest. Not the kind that comes with anger. It was something else. He couldn't put it into words. He stood in the kitchen, staring at that sticky note, his mind a chaotic mess. Why hadn't she told him? Did she think he was useless? Did she think he was embarrassing? Did she? The door sounded. Ryan turned. Victoria was back. She slipped off her heels, set her briefcase on the hall cabinet, and walked into the living room. She saw Ryan standing in the kitchen doorway and paused for a moment. You're home. I'm home, Ryan said. Victoria didn't say anything else. She walked to the sofa. She sat down, picked up the magazine on the coffee table, and flipped through 2 pages. Ryan stood where he was. He looked at Victoria's profile. She looked tired today with faint lines at the corners of her eyes and her lips pressed together. She was looking at the magazine, but Ryan could tell she wasn't really reading. Her gaze was unfocused. Picking fights. Alex's words rang in his head. Ryan took a deep breath and spoke. Victoria, there's a dinner on Saturday. Victoria's eyes flickered. How do you know? The sticky note on the fridge. Victoria glanced at him without speaking. Ryan waited 3 seconds. She offered no explanation. She simply looked at him once, then went back to the magazine. In that instant, the tightness in Ryan's chest suddenly shifted into something he didn't know. He only knew he suddenly wanted to talk, to say a lot. To say everything he'd been holding in for the past 4 years. "You don't intend to tell me?" he asked. Victoria put down the magazine. "What? The dinner on Saturday? You're not going to tell me?" Victoria looked at him, her gaze a little odd. "Do you need to know?" Ryan froze for a moment. Need to know? He was her husband, an arranged husband, but a husband all the same. Yet she asked whether he needed to know. "I'm your husband," Ryan said, his voice louder than he'd intended. "You go to a dinner and don't tell me." Victoria's brow tightened. "You've never attended one of my dinners because you've never invited me." There was a 3-second silence in the living room. Ryan stood in the kitchen doorway, his chest heaving. He didn't know why he'd suddenly gotten so worked up. He was only trying to pick a fight, carrying out Alex's plan. Victoria stood up. She walked over to Ryan and stopped in front of him. She was half a head shorter than he was, but her presence made her seem taller. "Do you want to attend?" she asked. Ryan opened his mouth. Did he want to attend? He didn't. Not at all. What were those dinners anyway? A bunch of men in suits flattering one another. Victoria standing in the middle like a queen and him standing beside her like an ornament. He didn't want to go, but his mouth was faster than his brain. "I do." Victoria looked at him. That look had returned. The same look from last night's dinner, as if she had heard something she shouldn't have. Ryan's heart skipped a beat. What had she heard? What he had just thought was he didn't want to go. He had thought in his head that he didn't want to go. But what he had said was, "I do." "Okay," Victoria said. Ryan froze. "What? You're coming with me to the Saturday dinner?" Victoria turned and walked toward the stairs. 7 o'clock formal wear. She went upstairs. Ryan stood where he was, watching her silhouette disappear around the stairwell. His mind went blank. Wait, this wasn't how the plan was supposed to go. He was supposed to pick a fight, make it unbearable for Victoria so she'd be the one to ask for a divorce, not have her invite him to a dinner. He pulled out his phone and sent Alex a message. Plan failed. Alex replied instantly. "What's up?" Ryan typed. "She invited me to a dinner." There was silence on the other end for 5 seconds. Then Alex sent, "Are you picking a fight or acting cute?" Ryan stared at the screen. He didn't reply. He stood in the living room looking at the sticky note on the fridge. Saturday dinner, 7 p.m. formal wear. With only one thought in his head. It's over. Not only did he fail to start a fight, he'd managed to create trouble for himself. Upstairs in the bedroom, Victoria sat on the edge of the bed, the corner of her mouth curving into a smile. She had heard it from the moment Ryan stood in the kitchen, staring at the sticky note. She had heard everything. Why didn't she tell me? She thinks I'm useless. She thinks I'm embarrassing. I'm her husband. Every single thought flowed into her mind, crisp and clear, like a broadcast. He didn't really want to argue. He was just looking for a fight. He only wanted to force her to bring up the divorce. But she heard something else. She heard the dull pressure in his chest. Not anger, but grievance. The kind of grievance that thinks, why doesn't she take me seriously? She also heard, "I don't want to attend the banquet." He said, "I want to," but in his heart, he meant, "I don't." Victoria smiled. She stood up, walked to the window, and drew back the curtains. The sunlight outside was bright, and people came and went on the street. She remembered how Ryan had looked standing in the kitchen doorway a moment ago. His chest heaving, his face a little flushed, appearing angry, but his eyes were panicked. He was trying to pick a fight, but he simply didn't know how to argue. He didn't even know how to quarrel. Victoria's mouth curved again. The Saturday dinner. She was going to take him. She wanted him to stand beside her to let her uncles and aunts see what this man living off a woman they kept talking about actually looked like. She also wanted to see what expression he'd wear when standing among a group of men in suits. His head full of "I want to go home. I want to sleep. This wine tastes awful." Victoria turned and looked at the bedroom door. Footsteps sounded downstairs. Ryan was moving around. No, he was just pacing. He didn't know what to do. Victoria walked to the dressing table, opened a drawer, and took out a box. It was a tie, deep blue, bespoke, something she'd bought last month and never given away. She set the box on the bed. On Saturday, he would wear formal clothes. She could pair this tie with his outfit. Victoria looked at the tie and a thought flashed through her mind. Why had she bought him a tie? She didn't know. Maybe it was because she had passed that shop that day and the ties in the window had reminded her of his eyes. Maybe because she suddenly wanted to see him in formal wear. Maybe there was no reason. She just wanted to buy it. Victoria put the box back in the drawer and closed it. Sounds came from downstairs again. Ryan was on the phone, probably calling Alex. Victoria went to the door and opened it. Ryan's voice drifted up from below. I don't know. I just asked about the dinner, and she told me to go. What is that supposed to be? Victoria stood at the top of the stairs, listening. Is she testing me? Has she discovered something? A curve formed at the corner of Victoria's mouth. She had indeed discovered it. She had found out about his head full of divorce plans. She discovered that he had no intention of attending the banquet at all. She also realized his way of picking fights was in a way rather endearing. Victoria turned and went back into the bedroom, closing the door. She lay on the bed staring at the ceiling. This man who didn't even know how to argue, she stubbornly refused to let him go. Saturday night, 7 o'clock. Ryan stood in front of the mirror looking at himself. The suit was bought by Victoria 3 years ago. The first time he accompanied her to a banquet, she had it delivered. At the time, he found it odd. How could someone know his measurements in advance? Later, he learned that Victoria even knew the size of his underwear down to the last detail. The tie was tied by him. Victoria had left a deep blue tie in his wardrobe. He didn't know when she had put it there, but he wasn't wearing it today. He wore the one he had bought himself, black, very ordinary. He didn't want to wear the tie Victoria had picked. He didn't want her to think he was humoring her. Ready? Victoria's voice came from the doorway. Ryan turned. She was standing in the bedroom doorway wearing a deep red evening gown. The dress was long, ankle-length, with a slit up to her thigh. Her hair was pinned up. Her earrings were diamonds and a delicate necklace rested at her throat. Ryan glanced at her just once. Then he looked away. I'm ready, he said. He thought, why is she dressed like this today? Isn't she always in black, white, or gray? Why suddenly red? Victoria walked up to him and stopped. Her gaze landed on his neck. Nice tie. Ryan glanced down at his tie. Black, very ordinary. Thanks. What is she thinking? Mocking me, or does she actually like it? No, she never compliments me. Why suddenly praise my tie today? The corner of Victoria's mouth twitched. Let's go. The banquet was at a hotel downtown. Ryan followed Victoria, passing through the lobby and into the ballroom. He saw many people, men in suits, women in evening gowns, everyone smiling perfectly, politely. He recognized a few faces. The bald man was Victoria's second uncle, rumored to be at odds with her on the board. The woman in the green dress was her third aunt, who loved gossiping behind people's backs. The one with glasses was her cousin. What was his name again? Victoria. A voice cut through his thoughts. Ryan turned and saw a middle-aged woman approaching. She wore a gold dress, pearl earrings, and her smile carved crow's feet at the corners of her eyes. Auntie, Victoria called. Ryan's mind flickered. This was Victoria's great aunt. He'd seen her once at her family's New Year's Eve dinner. Back then, he had been married to Victoria for only 6 months, and she had asked him to show his face. So, he went. He spent the whole time treated like heir. No one spoke to him, and he ate in the corner for 2 hours. This is my husband, Victoria said. The aunt's expression froze for a moment. Oh, right. I remember now. She smiled in an even more practiced way. You've been married 4 years, haven't you? 4 years and 3 months, Ryan said. What he thought. Of course, you don't remember. You didn't even look at me properly back then. You told the person next to you, anyone can get in these days. You think I didn't hear that? His aunt's smile froze on her face. Ha ha. Yes. Time really flies, she said, then quickly turned to Victoria. Victoria, I heard your company is negotiating an acquisition. Victoria nodded. Ryan stood beside them, listening to their conversation. He couldn't make much of it. Acquisitions, valuations, equity structures. He was a son-in-law by marriage. What would he know about any of that? But he heard something else. He heard the barbs in the aunt's words. It's not easy for you girls to do business. Your uncles may not say it, but they do care about you. If you ask me, it would be better to find someone reliable to help. Each sentence hinted at the same thing. Victoria, a woman, couldn't hold up the company and should step aside for her uncles. Ryan looked at Victoria. She stood there smiling, answering line by line. Everything she said was proper, polite, but each sentence was like a soft blade, turning the aunt's barbs back on her. Ryan suddenly felt a little conflicted. A bit impressed, a bit pained. No, he shouldn't feel pity. He should be picking fights. He should make Victoria unable to stand him. By the way, his aunt suddenly turned to him. Ryan, right? What are you doing for work now? Ryan froze for a moment. He's a special advisor to my company. Victoria cut him off. Ryan turned to look at her. Special advisor? When did he become a special advisor? The eldest aunt's expression stiffened again. Special advisor? In what area? Strategy, Victoria said, her tone very even. His suggestions have been very helpful to me. Ryan stood to the side, his mind blank. What was she talking about? He had never given Victoria any advice. He didn't even really know what her company did. Oh, is that so? The aunt's smile stiffened further. Well, that's quite good. Aunt. Excuse me for a moment, Victoria said, then turned to Ryan. Let's go over there and take a look. She looped her arm through Ryan's and pulled him to the side. Ryan was dragged along, his mind still blank. They reached a corner of the banquet hall, a relatively quiet spot. Victoria let go of his arm and turned to face him. Ryan began. I don't want anyone to look down on you, Victoria interrupted him. Ryan was taken aback. What? Those people, Victoria said. They'll belittle you in all sorts of ways. I don't want you to seem inferior in front of them. Ryan looked at her. He didn't know what to say. What he was thinking was, why did she bring this up all of a sudden? Hadn't she always been indifferent? Didn't she always treat him like a tool? How could it change so abruptly? Besides, Victoria continued, you're my husband. No matter what the agreement says, in front of others, you are my husband. A buzzing sound filled Ryan's head. You don't overthink it, Victoria cut him off. I just don't want them laughing at us. She turned and walked toward the buffet. Ryan stood where he was watching her back. His mind was a mess. Ryan took a deep breath. No, he couldn't let those words get to him. He was supposed to pick a fight, make Victoria fed up with him. Ryan suddenly realized he didn't even know what he was supposed to do anymore. He stood in the corner of the banquet hall watching Victoria's back. She stood at the buffet holding a plate and picking through the fruit. Her back was straight, her shoulders steady, looking like she was handling important business. No, she was just choosing fruit. Ryan walked over. Let me hold that for you. Victoria glanced up at him. No need. I'll help you with that. Ryan insisted. He reached for the plate in her hands. Their hands touched. Victoria's fingers were a little cool. Ryan's movement stuttered. He looked at her hand. The ring-adorned hand overlapping with his. You, Victoria began. Just then, a voice came from beside them. Victoria, long time no see. Ryan turned his head. A man in a white suit approached, smiling broadly. He looked to be in his early 30s, hair neatly combed, his face wearing that overconfident, successful expression. Mr. Evan, Victoria nodded. I heard your company has been discussing a merger recently. Evan approached, his gaze appraising Victoria openly. If you need help, just let me know. Thanks, but no need, Victoria said. Don't be so formal. Evan grinned even brighter. We're old friends after all. By the way, this is, he looked toward Ryan. My husband. Mr. Evans' expression froze for a moment, then quickly returned to normal. Oh, right. I heard you got married. He looked at Ryan, his gaze layered with disdain and mockery. Hello, Ryan said. What he thought was, what kind of look is that? He looks at me like I'm trash. And his look at Victoria is strange too, like he's staring at prey. Victoria's brow furrowed. Mr. Evan, excuse me. Then she turned to leave. Wait. Evan stopped her. Victoria, I heard you've been having some trouble with a few of the uncles on the board lately. Want me to help? No need, Victoria's voice cooled. Don't be so off-putting. Evan stepped closer. If we cooperate, it would only be good for you. Mr. Evan. Victoria cut him off. I told you no need. She turned and walked away. Ryan followed, but Evan spoke again. Victoria, isn't your contract husband about to expire? Victoria's steps faltered. Ryan stopped, too. He turned to look at Evan. Evan stood there, smiling brightly, his eyes carrying that knowing look. I heard, Evan said, you two signed a 4-year contract marriage. Divorce when it expires. Isn't it almost time? A buzz went off in Ryan's head. How did he know? Victoria turned, facing Mr. Evan. Mr. Evan? Her voice was very calm. My private matters don't concern you. I'm just concerned. Evan spread his hands. After all, we're old friends. And besides, if you're about to get divorced, he stepped closer, can I get in line? You can try, Victoria said. Her voice was cold as ice. Try what? Evan was still laughing. Try suing me for harassment, Victoria said. Now, please step aside. She turned, hooked her arm through Ryan's, and pulled him toward the door. Ryan was dragged along, his mind still blank. They left the banquet hall, crossed the lobby, and exited the hotel. The night wind blew, a little chilly. Victoria loosened her arm from his and stood by the roadside. "I'm sorry," she said. Ryan looked at her. "For what?" "For making you hear those things," Victoria said, her voice a little low. He shouldn't have said those things. Ryan stood there, not knowing what to say. What he was thinking was, why is she apologizing? What that man said was all true. A contract marriage, for years up, divorce, those were all facts. Why is she apologizing for truths? Victoria turned her head and looked at him. That look appeared again, as if she'd heard something she shouldn't have. "Ryan," she said. "What?" "The contract's up," she said. "But I tore it up." Ryan paused. "I know. So, you're still my husband. Since you're my husband, you don't have to worry about those words." Ryan looked at her. The night breeze stirred her hair, tousling it slightly. Her earrings glittered in the streetlight. Her eyes were still faintly red. Ryan felt a sudden tightness in his chest. He didn't know why. "Victoria, the way that man looks at you is disgusting." Victoria was momentarily stunned. Then she smiled. "I know. You should sue him." "I will." They stood by the roadside. The night wind blew and neither of them spoke. Ryan's mind was a mess. Agreement. Divorce. Settlement. Portia. Freedom. But for some reason, he suddenly felt those things a little distant. He looked at Victoria. She stood there, shoulders straight, chin lifted slightly, but her eyes still a little red. Ryan felt his chest tighten again. "Let's go home." Victoria looked up at him. "Okay." On the way home, neither of them spoke. Ryan drove. Victoria sat in the passenger seat. The lights outside flashed by, illuminating her face. Ryan stole a glance at her. What was she thinking? He didn't know. All he knew was that tonight, something seemed different. He didn't know what it was, but he could feel it. When Ryan woke up, there were voices coming from the living room. He checked his phone, 2 a.m. Who would be in the living room at this hour? He swung his legs out of bed and padded to the door, opening it a crack. The living room light was on. Victoria sat on the sofa, her back to him. Her shoulders were trembling. Ryan paused for a moment. Was she crying? He stood in the doorway looking at her silhouette. Her hair had come loose, the evening gown still on her heels kicked to one side. She was curled up on the sofa, her shoulders shaking. A thought flashed through Ryan's mind. This was an opportunity. She was fragile right now. He could take this chance to bring up the divorce. She was in a bad mood. She might agree more quickly. He was thinking that when Victoria's voice came. "I know you're there." Ryan froze. "Come out." He pushed the door open and stepped into the living room. Victoria didn't turn around. She was still curled up on the couch, her shoulders still shaking. "Why aren't you asleep yet?" Ryan asked. "I can't sleep." Ryan walked to the side of the sofa and stopped. He looked at her back, his mind still calculating. "Bring it up now or wait a bit. She's crying now. Would raising divorce be too cruel? They want to kick me out." Victoria's voice cut through his thoughts. Ryan paused for a moment. "What?" "My uncles," Victoria said, her voice a little hoarse. "They want to push me out of the company." Ryan stood there, not knowing what to say. "They say I'm no good," Victoria continued. "They say I'm a woman, that I don't understand management, that I should go home and have children." Her shoulders trembled even more. "They hired people," she said. "Hired a lot of people to edge me out." Her voice choked. Ryan stood there, his mind blank. What he thought was, why is she telling me this? She never tells me about the company. She never tells me anything. Do you know what they're saying? Victoria turned to him suddenly, looking at him. Her face was wet with tears. Ryan felt a tightness in his chest. "They said," Victoria's voice trembled, "they said I can't even keep a man. They said my husband is a loser. They said I'm unfit to be the CEO. Ryan was stunned. "They said," her voice shook more. She didn't finish and began to cry again. Ryan stood there looking at her. What he was thinking was, who do those people think they are? Who gave them the right to speak about her like that? No, he shouldn't be thinking like that. He should bring up the divorce. This is an opportunity. She's vulnerable now. He could. Ryan. Victoria looked at him. "What are you thinking?" Ryan was taken aback. "I'm thinking, what is he thinking? He's thinking about divorce. He's thinking about the settlement. He's thinking about freedom, but he's thinking about something else, too. He's thinking of the way she looks when she cries. So different from usual. Normally, she's like a queen, afraid of nothing. Now, she looks like an ordinary person, tired, hurt, vulnerable." "Ryan," Victoria called him again. Could you? Her voice grew softer. Could you sit down? Ryan hesitated for a second, then sat down at the other end of the sofa. Victoria looked at him. What are you thinking? She asked again. Ryan looked at her. He wanted to say, I'm thinking about divorce. He wanted to say, I'm thinking about how to force you to sign while you're vulnerable. He wanted to say, but he didn't. I'm thinking, he said, you look ugly when you cry. Victoria paused. Then she smiled. Tears still lingered at the corners of her eyes. You're the ugly one, she said. I'm ugly by nature, Ryan said. But what he thought in his heart was, you're not ugly. You're not ugly at all when you cry. You look so tired. You look so wronged. Victoria looked at him. That look appeared again, as if she had heard something she wasn't supposed to hear. Ryan, can you? She paused. Can you hug me? Ryan froze. Can you hold me? Victoria repeated, her voice very quiet. Just once. Ryan sat there, his mind blank. Hold her. He should refuse. He should bring up the divorce. He didn't know what he should do anymore. He looked at Victoria. She sat there, her evening gown wrinkled, her hair messy, her face streaked with tears. She looked exhausted, wronged, desperately in need of an embrace. Ryan felt his chest tighten again. He stood up, walked over to her, then reached out and held her. Victoria stiffened for a moment. Then she leaned into his arms and began to cry. Ryan held her, unsure what to say. What ran through his mind was, she's so thin. She usually looks so strong, but held like this, she's so slight. Her shoulders trembled. Her tears soaked his shirt. Her hand gripped his sleeve tightly, as if clinging to something. Ryan's arm tightened a little. It's okay now, he said. He didn't know why he said that. He didn't know why he held her. He only knew that at this moment she was leaning against him, crying, and he didn't want to let her go. He didn't know how long passed before Victoria's sobbing stopped. She was still leaning against him, but her shoulders no longer shook. I'm sorry, she said. For you having to see me like this, Victoria added. I'm not usually like this. I know, Ryan said. What he thought was, you're usually like a queen. You fear nothing. They're right, Victoria said suddenly. I'm not fit to be CEO. I'm a woman. I don't understand business. I should go home and have children. Nonsense. Victoria paused, then looked up at him. What you're thinking in your heart isn't the same as what you say with your mouth. Ryan was taken aback for a moment. What do you mean? You say it's nonsense, Victoria said. But what you're thinking is you're better than any of them. A buzzing sound went through Ryan's head. How did she know? How did she know what he was thinking? Victoria, he began, his voice shifting slightly. How did you? I don't know, Victoria said. I just know. She sat up from his arms and wiped her tears. Ryan, there's something I want to tell you. What? She paused. I can hear your thoughts. Ryan froze. What? From the day the contract expired, Victoria said. I can hear what you're thinking. What you think when you wake up in the morning. What you think while making breakfast. What you think when you stand in the kitchen doorway looking for reasons to pick a fight. I hear it all. Ryan sat there motionless. I know you want a divorce, Victoria said. I know you want the settlement, the Porsche, the freedom. Ryan's throat went dry. Then why? Because, Victoria looked at him. I heard other things too. Ryan, you don't really want a divorce. I do, Victoria cut him off. You want a divorce because you think I don't care about you. You think I treat you like a tool in this household. You do treat me like a tool, Ryan said. I know, Victoria said. I did treat you like a tool before, but she paused. But I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want you to go. I don't want you to leave. I don't. Her voice trembled again. I don't want to be alone. Ryan sat there looking at her. His head was a jumble. Breakup fee, Porsche, freedom, contract, divorce. But those things suddenly blurred. He looked at Victoria. She sat there, her evening gown wrinkled, her hair messy, tears still on her face. She looked exhausted, wronged, desperately in need of company. Ryan took a deep breath. Victoria, if the agreement's torn, it's torn. Victoria froze for a moment. What do you mean? I mean, I'm not leaving. Victoria's eyes widened. Don't go yet, Ryan said. Wait until your company's matters settle down. Victoria looked at him. Then she smiled. Okay. She stood up and walked over to Ryan. Thank you. Thank you for what? Thank you for holding me, Victoria said. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for staying. Ryan looked at her. What he was thinking was, why do I suddenly not want to leave? Shouldn't I be taking this chance to bring up the divorce? Shouldn't I? Never mind. I don't want to. A corner of Victoria's mouth lifted. I know what you're thinking. You were thinking, why did I suddenly not want to leave? You were thinking, shouldn't I take this chance to bring up the divorce? Ryan was silent for 2 seconds. Can you stop telling me everything? Victoria smiled. Depends on my mood. She turned and walked toward the stairs. Go to bed. You have work tomorrow. Ryan sat on the sofa, watching her silhouette disappear around the stairwell. His mind was still a mess. But one thing was clear to him. Tonight, he didn't want to leave. At least not tonight. Ryan found a box of ties in Victoria's wardrobe the next morning while helping her tidy the closet. The box was exquisite deep blue velvet stamped with the logo of an Italian brand. He opened the box. Inside were 6 ties, each custom-made, each a different color. The top one was deep navy. He recognized it. It was the tie Victoria had placed in his wardrobe. He had always thought she'd bought it casually, just left it there on a whim. But now he looked at this box, at the 6 ties inside. Each matched a different suit. She had bought 6 for him. Ryan stood in front of the wardrobe, staring at the box of ties, his mind blank. When did she buy these? What are you looking at? Victoria's voice came from the doorway. Ryan turned. She was standing in the bedroom doorway in loungewear, her hair still damp. She had just finished showering. These ties, Ryan said. Did you buy them? Victoria glanced at the box, her expression stiffening. Yes. Why? No particular reason, Victoria said. I just bought them. Ryan looked at her. The corner of Victoria's mouth twitched. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking why would she buy 6 bespoke ties for no particular reason? Ryan froze. I was walking past that shop when I bought it, Victoria said. The tie in the window made me think of your eyes. A buzzing sound filled Ryan's head. My eyes? Your eyes are deep blue, Victoria said. That top tie, the color is the same as your eyes. Ryan stood there, not knowing what to say. What he was thinking. Had she noticed my eyes? Did she know what color my eyes are? I know what you're thinking, Victoria said. Ryan's throat went dry. I've noticed, Victoria said. I've noticed everything about you. Your eyes. Your hair, the way the corner of your mouth lifts when you smile, the little frown that appears when you're angry. She paused. I've noticed everything about you, but I didn't know how to tell you. Ryan stood by the wardrobe looking at her. In his mind, he thought, she's noticed everything about me? She didn't know how to tell me? I know, Victoria said. I can hear. She turned and walked toward the bathroom. I'm going to blow my hair. You can look for yourself. Ryan stood there staring at the box of ties. He picked up the one on top. A deep navy, the same color as his eyes. His chest tightened suddenly. That afternoon, Victoria's company ran into trouble. Ryan was in the kitchen making dinner when his phone rang. It was Victoria's assistant. Mr. Ryan. Victoria is in the conference room. People from the board have arrived and say they want to vote her out. Ryan froze for a moment. What? They found people, the assistant said, saying she's unfit to be CEO and want to vote her out. Victoria's alone in the conference room and they have a dozen or so people. Ryan hadn't even put his phone down before he was already heading out. He drove to Victoria Group. On the 20-minute route, he made it in 10. He barreled into the building, sprinted up the stairs, and flung open the conference room door. Victoria sat at one end of the table. A dozen or so people sat at the other end. Her uncles, aunts, cousins, and some faces he didn't recognize. Everyone was talking. Everyone was blaming her. Everyone was saying, Victoria is not fit to be CEO. She's just a woman. She can't hold up this company. She should go home and have children. Her husband is useless and she's useless too. Vote to remove her. Ryan stood at the doorway watching the scene. Victoria sat there, shoulders straight, chin lifted slightly. Her expression was calm, but Ryan could see her hand was trembling. At first glance, you wouldn't notice, but her hand was trembling. Ryan felt a sharp pain tighten in his chest. He burst into the conference room. Who said that? The conference room fell silent. Everyone turned to look at him. Who said she was useless? Who said I was useless? A balding man stood up. It was Victoria's second uncle. Who are you? What right do you have to speak here? I'm her husband, Ryan said. Husband? The second uncle laughed. You're someone she paid. You're her contract husband. I'm her husband, Ryan said. No matter what the agreement says. I'm her husband. He walked to Victoria's side and stopped. You say she's unfit to be CEO? What right do you have to judge her? We are her family, the second uncle said. Family? Ryan laughed. You're her family. You spend every day talking her down behind her back, always scheming to drive her out. Do you know how many hours she works every day? 16 hours. Do you know what time she gets up every day? 6 a.m. Do you know what time she goes to bed? Sometimes she doesn't sleep at all. The conference room fell silent. Do you know she's carrying this company on her own? Do you know how many problems she has to face every day? Do you know how exhausted she is? She's just one woman. She's a woman holding up a company that you men couldn't keep afloat. Ryan said. What right do you have to speak ill of her? Second uncle's face flushed. You call her husband a loser? Ryan asked. Do you know who I am? You're a living son-in-law. Second uncle said you're living off her. I'm her husband, Ryan said. I make her breakfast every day. I wait for her to come home every day. What good does that do? Second uncle laughed. You're just a housekeeper. I am useful, Ryan said. At least I'm more useful than you. He turned to Victoria. Victoria, you don't have to be afraid. Victoria looked at him. Her eyes were red. I'm here, Ryan said. I'm with you. He stood beside her, facing those a dozen odd people. You want to vote to remove her? Go ahead and vote. But I'm telling you, he took a deep breath. She is the president of this company. She is more suited to be president than any of you. If you vote to remove her, you're voting to remove the future of this company. The conference room fell silent. No one spoke. Victoria's second uncle stood up, his face flushed, his lips trembling, but he couldn't form a word. Meeting adjourned, Victoria said. Her voice was calm, but Ryan could hear it was trembling. The conference room door closed. Victoria stood by the window, looking out at the street. Ryan stood behind her. Victoria, thank you. Thank you for stepping forward. Victoria said. Thank you for helping me. Ryan walked up to her. It's what I should do. What he thought was, it's what I should do. You are my wife. I know what you're thinking, Victoria said. What you're thinking, it's what I should do. You are my wife. Victoria said, you're thinking I should protect you, but I hear other things. Victoria said, I hear you thinking. She's running such a huge company all by herself. She's so tired. I hear you thinking. Who are those people to talk about her? I hear you thinking. She paused. I heard you thinking. I love her. Ryan felt a squeeze in his chest. Can you hear it? Victoria asked. Can you hear my inner voice? Ryan was stunned. I can't. I can hear you, Victoria said. Can you hear me? Ryan looked at her. Victoria, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I don't want the breakup money. I don't want to buy a Porsche. I don't. He took a deep breath. I want to be with you. Tears fell from Victoria's eyes. I love you, Ryan said. I don't know when it started. I don't know how it started. All I know is, just now in the conference room. Seeing you face those people alone, seeing your hands shake, his voice changed tone. My chest hurt so much I thought I might die. Victoria stood by the window, a tear rolling down her face, then another, but she smiled. I don't want to leave you alone, Ryan said. I don't want you to face those people. I don't. He walked up to her, reached out and held her. Victoria leaned into his arms. The tears were still falling, but her shoulders no longer shook. Ryan, she said. I love you, too. I love you, Victoria said. I don't know when it started. I don't know how it started. I only know. She lifted her head and looked at him. All I know is the day the contract expired. I tore it up because I didn't want you to leave. Ryan looked at her. I didn't want you to leave, Victoria said. Not because of the contract. Not for appearances. Not because, she paused. Because I love you, too. Ryan held her standing by the window. Sunlight streamed in from outside, falling over them. He didn't know what would happen in the future. He only knew that in this moment, he didn't want to leave. Not because of the contract, not because of the breakup payment, because he wanted to be with her. 3 months later, Ryan stood on the top floor of the Victoria Group building, looking out over the city. He was a special assistant now, not the throwaway special consultant title Victoria had come up with. This was the real thing, a genuine special assistant. He had his own office, his own work, his own career. Victoria put him in charge of a new project, acquiring a small company. It took him 2 months to negotiate the buyout. It took him 3 months to integrate that company into the Victoria Group. He did it. He wasn't useless. He wasn't a kept man. He was Victoria's husband and also the special assistant of the Victoria Group. What are you looking at? Victoria's voice came from the doorway. Ryan turned. She stood at the office door wearing a suit dress, her hair pinned up. She looked the same as always, assertive, composed, queen-like. But Ryan could see something different. The corner of her mouth had lifted a little. "I'm looking at the city," Ryan said. "What's so interesting about the city?" Victoria entered the office and came up beside him. "Nothing in particular," Ryan said. "I just feel like I never really looked at this city before." Victoria looked at him. "What were you looking at before?" "Looking at the breakup payment," Ryan said. "Looking at the Porsche, looking at freedom." Victoria's mouth curved again. "And now I'm looking at you," Ryan said. "Every day I'm looking at you." He reached out and held her. Victoria leaned into his arms, her shoulders relaxed. "Ryan, did you finish your work today?" "Finished." "Then come home with me," Victoria said. "I want to eat the dinner you cook." "Okay," he said. 1 year later, Ryan stood in the hospital corridor looking out the window. Outside the window, the sun shone bright and warm. He hadn't gone to the office today. Victoria hadn't gone to the office today either. They were in the hospital because Victoria was pregnant. 8 months along, Ryan's mind was still a blank. He was going to be a father. "Ryan." Victoria's voice came from the hospital room. Ryan turned and walked into the room. Victoria lay in bed, her face a little pale. "What were you thinking out there?" she asked. "I was thinking." Ryan sat down at the bedside. "I'm going to be a father." "I know," Victoria said. "I can hear it. You're still thinking." Victoria said, "About whether you can be a good father." Ryan paused. "I am thinking that I can." Victoria said, "You can be a good father. You can be a good husband. You can be." She paused. "You can do everything right. I hear you thinking every day. I want to do it right. I want to make her happy. I want." She smiled. "You already are." 2 months later, twins, a boy, a girl. Ryan stood in the nursery, looking at the 2 little infants. The boy is on the left, the girl on the right. They are both asleep, breathing softly, very steadily. Ryan's mind was still a blank. He had 2 children. He had a son and a daughter. "Ryan." Victoria's voice came from the doorway. Ryan turned. She was standing in the doorway wearing loungewear, her hair loose. She looked tired, but the corners of her mouth were curved into a smile. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I'm thinking," Ryan said. "They're so small." Victoria laughed. "They really are." "I'm thinking," Ryan said. "Can I protect them?" "You can," she said. "You can protect them. You can protect me. You can protect." She paused. "You can protect our home." Ryan held her, looking at the 2 little babies. "Thank you for letting me stay. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for giving me a home." "I know," Victoria said. "I can hear." 5 years later, Ryan stood on the top floor of the Victoria Group building, looking out at the city beyond the windows. He was the vice president now, not merely a special assistant. It had taken him 5 years from special assistant to vice president. In 5 years, he had doubled the size of the Victoria Group. "Daddy!" A voice came from the doorway. Ryan turned. 2 children ran in, a boy and a girl. They were 5 years old, running fast, their smiles bright as sunlight. "Dad," the boy said. "Mom said we can go to the amusement park today." "Dad," the girl said. "Mom said we can ride the carousel." Ryan smiled. "Okay, let's go." Sunlight streamed through the window, falling on them. Ryan held Victoria and the 2 children in his arms. He didn't know what would happen in the future. He only knew that at this moment he was very happy. He had a wife. He had 2 children. He had a home. He had everything. He no longer wanted the breakup settlement. He no longer wanted the Porsche. He no longer wanted freedom. He only wanted to be with her.